Hello everyone, welcome to Sunday's special class for NET and JRF coaching. So today onwards, a few of our Sunday classes will be dealing with Shakespeare and his works. So before going directly into Shakespeare, we'll just know about the Shakespeare's Age. What about the Shakespearean theatre, Shakespeare's folios, and Elizabethan tragedy and comedy, Senecan revenge tragedy, etc. So stay tuned with the channel. Give me support just like you watch my Kerala PSC HSA English classes. Please do watch my Sunday special coaching for NET and JRF aspirants. So let's start. Shakespeare's Age or Elizabethan Age. It was a reign of the Tudor Queen Elizabeth I from 1558 to 1603. She was the last Tudor monarch and reigned about 44 years. And the major happening that occurred during Elizabethan Age was a defeat of the Spanish Armada in 1558. Let's go through the timeline of Elizabethan theatre. 1564, on April 23, William Shakespeare was born. In 1576, James Burbage obtains lease and permission to build an amphitheatre, the theatre in Shoreditch, London. The Lord Chamberlain's men played here from 1594 to 1596. In 1577, another open-air amphitheatre called the Curtain opens in Finsbury Fields, London. In 1587, open-air amphitheatre The Rose is opened. In 1593, theatres closed due to the bubonic plague, the Black Death. In 1594, the Lord Chamberlain's Company, formerly known as Lord Stranger's Men, was formed. In 1596, James Burbage purchases Blackfriars and converts it into a theatre. In 1597, dispute over the lease of the theatre. The Puritan owner Giles Allen disapproved of theatre and the acting troupe. In 1597, Shakespeare's troupe moved to the Curtain Theatre. In 1598, timber from the theatre taken to the use of the building of a new theatre to be called the Globe. And in 1599, the Globe Theatre is opened on Bankside. In 1600, Richard Burbage is forced to lease out Blackfriars. In 1603, the bubonic plague, the Black Death, again ravages London, killing 33,000 people, and all theatres were closed. In 1613, on June 29, a fire at the Globe Theatre occurred, and Henry VIII was being staged on that time. In 1614, Globe Theatre was rebuilt on original foundation, and this time the roof is tiled. In 1642, the English Civil War breaks out between the parliamentarians, the Puritans, and the Royalists. And in the same year, on September 2, Parliament issues an ordinance suppressing all stage plays. And in 1644, on April 15, Puritan landowner Sir Matthew Brent demolishes the Globe and builds houses on that site. In 1660, the Restoration and the end of the Puritan rule sees the opening of the theatres again. So this is all about the timeline of Elizabethan theatre. Note down the major happenings. So now let's move on to the publication of Shakespeare's plays. The text of 16 of his plays were printed individually in quarto editions in Shakespeare's lifetime. For 18 of his plays, we have only texts published after his death. The first folio was in 1623. It was titled Mr. William Shakespeare's Comedies, Histories and Tragedies. It was compiled by John Hemmings and Henry Condell. It was dedicated to the incomparable pair of brethren, William Herbert, 3rd Earl of Pembroke, and his brother Philip Herbert, Earl of Montgomery. This was the first collected edition of his plays. Only 36 included in the first folio. Pericles was not included. Ben Jonson has written the preface to the first folio. Shakespeare in the 18th century. Okay, so Shakespeare's preeminence was recognized in the 18th century since Nicholas Rowe's edition of 1709. And David Garrick was a major Shakespearean actor. And Coleridge was the earliest of the modern Shakespearean critics. So let's move on to Elizabethan tragedy. The first tragedy is Gorboduc or Ferrex and Porrex in 1561. It was the first tragedy in English, first play to be written in blank verse. It has a theme of political rivalry. Thomas Norton wrote the first 3 acts of Gorboduc and Thomas Sackville the last 2. Influence of the Roman playwright and Stoic philosopher Seneca, especially his Thyestes, can be seen in Gorboduc or Ferrex and Porrex. So what are the features of a Senecan revenge tragedy? There will be a secret murder, usually of a ruler. A ghostly visitation of the victim to the younger kinsman, generally a son, can be seen. So it will be a period of disguise, intrigue, or plotting in which the murderer and the avenger scheme against each other with a slowly rising body count. And a descent will be there into either real or feigned madness by the avenger. And there occurs an eruption of the general violence at the end, which in the Renaissance is often accomplished by means of a feigned mask or festivity. A catastrophe that generally destroys the characters, including the avenger, ends the play. Then coming to Elizabethan comedy, Ralph Roister Doister, which was written in 1553, it was written by schoolmaster Nicholas Udall to be enacted primarily by his pupils. And the second comedy is considered to be Gamma Gurton's Needle, written either by William Stevenson or John Still. Nicholas Udall. His Ralph Roister Doister was the first native comedy modelled on Plautus's Miles Gloriosus and on the plays of Terence. Matthew Mary Greek in his play is a representation of both Plotine parasite and Plotine slave. Those are the stereotypical stock characters. The Comedy of Errors is a reworking of Plautus's Menechmi. Shakespeare's Falstaff is a representation of the Plotine stock character Parasite. Shakespeare seems to have departed to London sometimes in the 1580s. The 7 years from 1585 to 1592 are called the lost years. There is no historical evidence on what he did at this time. In 1592, we have the first clear reference to Shakespeare as an actor or playwright in London. Robert Greene, in A Grod's Worth of Wit, makes a famous attack on Shakespeare. Yes, trust them not, for there is an upstart crow beautified with our feathers. In London, the Lord Chamberlain's men, also called the Lord Strange's men, performed his plays. Shakespeare's plays. Shakespeare owned shares in the second Blackfriars Theatre, an indoor theatre built by James Burbage, and later the Globe. In 1590s, the London theatre scene was unsettled. Actor companies were forming and disbanding themselves under the pressure of the plague. And during the plague years, Shakespeare's non-dramatic poetry, Venus and Adonis, 1593, The Rape of Lucrece, 1594, can be seen. So both were dedicated to the Earl of Southampton, probably seeking his patronage. Then there were minor non-dramatic poems which are of doubtful authorship. They are A Lover's Complaint, The Phoenix and the Turtle. Then The Passionate Pilgrim, an anthology of 20 poems edited by William Juggard, is also attributed to William Shakespeare. And coming to the sonnets, in 1598, Francis Meres praised Shakespeare's sugared sonnets in his Palladis Tamia or Wit's Treasury. And first publication of sonnets occurred in 1609. The sonnets were first published in quarto format by Thomas Thorpe, probably without the author's knowledge. And the quarto edition has a mysterious dedication from the publisher to Mr. W.H. as only begetter of his poems. We should know about the famous Globe Theatre. At first, the Lord Chamberlain's men performed in the theatre built by James Barbach in 1576. In 1597, after the dispute with the Puritan landlord over the terms of lease, the players moved to the nearby Curtain Playhouse. And on the night of December 28, 1597, when the landlord was out of town, Barbach and his friends dismantled the theatre timber by timber, and the wood was used to build the Globe Theatre on the bank side, where the Rose Playhouse was already achieving great success. The first recorded performance at the Globe was of Julius Caesar on 21 September 1599. Then we have to mention about the Mermaid Tavern, which was a tavern on Cheapside in London during the Elizabethan era, located east of St. Paul's Cathedral. So it was a site of the so-called Fraternity of Cyrenaical Gentlemen, a drinking club that met on the first Friday of every month that included some of the Elizabethan era's leading literary figures, among them Ben Jonson, John Donne, John Fletcher, and Francis Beaumont, Thomas Coriat, John Sheldon, Robert Bruce Cotton, Richard Carew, Richard Martin, and William Strachey. So a popular tradition had grown up that the group included William Shakespeare. A unique biography of Shakespeare is written by Bill Bryson in 2007. So we already know that Shakespeare has written 37 plays recently, and another play, The Double Falsehood, is also added to the canon, and 154 sonnets and 2 or 4 long poems. So that's all about the introduction of the Shakespearean age, and from next class onwards we are starting with the works of Shakespeare. Stay tuned with the channel. I know I'm not giving any written text in these special Sunday classes, but please try to note down the main points. It will be very helpful for your NET and JRF examinations. So, thank you. Bye.